For your entire life, you've probably heard the same financial advice. Save your money. Your parents told you. Your teachers told you. Financial experts repeated it on television. The message seemed simple and logical. Spend less than you earn, put money into a savings account, and one day you'll become wealthy. But what if that advice is incomplete? What if millions of hardworking people are following a financial strategy that was never designed to make them rich? Think about it. There are people who save money for decades and still struggle financially. Meanwhile, other people seem to become wealthier every year without obsessing over every dollar they spend. Why? What's the difference? The answer lies in one of the most powerful financial illusions ever created. An illusion so common that most people never question it. And once you understand it, you'll never look at saving money the same way again. Most people believe wealth comes from saving. At first glance, that sounds completely reasonable. After all, if spending money makes you poorer, then saving money should make you richer. But wealth and savings are not the same thing. Savings preserve money. Wealth multiplies money. Those are two very different goals. Imagine someone who saves $10,000 every year for 20 years. They've sacrificed vacations. They've delayed purchases. They've followed every piece of traditional financial advice. Yet after decades of discipline, many still find themselves far away from true financial freedom. Why? Because storing money and growing money are completely different activities. One protects wealth. The other creates wealth. And understanding that difference is the first step toward escaping one of the biggest financial traps in modern society. Now let's talk about the invisible force quietly working against every saver on earth. Inflation. Inflation is the gradual increase in prices over time. It means the money sitting in your account slowly loses purchasing power every year. Imagine you have $100 today. That money can buy a certain amount of food, fuel, housing, and everyday necessities. Fast forward 10 years. That same $100 may buy far less. The number hasn't changed, but the value has. This is where many people become trapped. They see their savings account growing, but they fail to notice that inflation is quietly reducing what that money can actually buy. Inflation doesn't send warnings. It doesn't make headlines every day. It simply steals purchasing power year after year. And if your money isn't growing faster than inflation, you're slowly moving backward. This is where wealthy people think differently. Most people focus on saving money. Rich people focus on owning assets. Instead of asking how much money they can save, they ask a different question. How can this money create more money? That single shift in thinking changes everything. A saver sees money as something to protect. An investor sees money as a tool. A wealthy person understands that money sitting idle does very little. But money invested in productive assets can grow for years or even decades. This is why many wealthy people don't keep the majority of their wealth in savings accounts. They own businesses, stocks, ETFs, real estate, assets that have the potential to generate income and appreciate in value over time. They don't just save money. They put money to work. To understand wealth, you must first understand one simple concept. Assets versus liabilities. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. It's that simple. Stocks can be assets. ETFs can be assets. Rental properties can be assets. Businesses can be assets. But expensive cars, luxury gadgets, and many consumer purchases often lose value over time. Yet most people spend their entire lives buying liabilities first. Then they wonder why wealth never seems to arrive. The wealthy reverse the order. They buy assets first. Then they use the income generated by those assets to purchase the things they want. This small change creates a completely different financial future. Because over time, assets begin working harder than the person who owns them. If you study wealthy people closely, you'll notice something interesting. Most of their income doesn't come from working more hours. It comes from ownership. Ownership is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools ever created. When you own a share of a business, you benefit from that business growing. When you own real estate, you benefit from rising property values and rental income. When you own productive assets, your wealth is no longer limited by your time. That's the key difference. Most people trade time for money. The wealthy own things that generate money. Imagine two people earning the exact same salary. One spends everything after paying bills. The other uses part of that income to buy assets. 10 years later, their financial lives may look completely different. Not because they worked harder. Not because they were luckier. But because one person became an owner while the other remained only a consumer. Ownership creates leverage. And leverage accelerates wealth. Let's think about businesses for a moment. Every major company around you exists because it solves a problem. People buy products. People use services. Money flows into the business. And the owners benefit. This is why business ownership has created so many millionaires throughout history. The owner doesn't need to personally work every minute. The system continues producing value. That's the magic. A business is essentially a machine designed to generate income. The bigger and more efficient the machine becomes, the more wealth it can create. Now, not everyone wants to start a company. And that's perfectly fine. Because modern investing gives ordinary people a way to participate in business ownership without running a company themselves. And that's where stocks enter the picture. Stocks allow everyday investors to become partial owners of some of the most successful businesses in the world. Many people think investing is complicated. But the basic idea is surprisingly simple. When you buy a stock, you're purchasing a small ownership stake in a business. If the company grows, your ownership becomes more valuable. That's why stocks have historically been one of the most effective wealth-building tools available. But what if you don't want to pick individual companies? That's where ETFs come in. An ETF allows you to own hundreds or even thousands of businesses through a single investment. Instead of betting on one company, you're investing in an entire collection of companies. This reduces risk and increases diversification. It's one reason why ETFs have become incredibly popular among long-term investors. The goal isn't to get rich overnight. The goal is to own productive assets that grow over time. Because wealth is rarely built through guessing. It's usually built through patience. Now we arrive at one of the most powerful forces in finance. Compounding. Albert Einstein supposedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whether he actually said it or not, the principle remains incredibly powerful. Compounding happens when your money begins generating returns. Then those returns begin generating their own returns. And the cycle continues. First, growth seems slow, almost disappointingly slow. But over time, something incredible happens. The curve begins to bend upward. Small gains become larger gains. And larger gains begin creating even larger gains. This is why patience matters so much. Most people quit before compounding has time to work. They focus on months. The wealthy focus on decades. Compounding rewards consistency. It rewards discipline. And most importantly, it rewards time. One of the greatest examples of compounding is Warren Buffett. Most people assume Buffett became wealthy because he picks great investments. That's only part of the story. The real secret is time. Buffett started investing when he was young. Then he allowed compounding to work for decades. Year after year. Decade after decade. His wealth didn't explode overnight. It grew gradually, then exponentially. This is an important lesson. Many people want immediate results. But wealth creation is often a slow process before it becomes a fast process. The first years can feel frustrating. Progress appears small. Yet beneath the surface, compounding is building momentum. And eventually, that momentum becomes extraordinary. The lesson isn't to copy Warren Buffett. The lesson is to understand the power of patience. Because time is often the most valuable asset an investor owns. If investing is so powerful, why don't more people do it? The answer is surprisingly simple. Fear. Many people are afraid of losing money. They're afraid of making mistakes. They're afraid of investing at the wrong time. And because of that fear, they choose the option that feels safe. They leave their money sitting in savings accounts year after year. But here's the irony. Doing nothing also carries risk. Inflation doesn't care whether you're afraid. Time doesn't stop moving because you're uncertain. Every year spent waiting is a year compounding could have been working for you. The biggest investing mistake isn't usually choosing the wrong stock. It's never starting at all. The truth is that nobody begins as an expert. Every successful investor started as a beginner. They learned. They made mistakes. They improved. And most importantly, they got started. Because in investing, action beats perfection almost every time. Most people aren't born fearing investments. They're taught to fear them. From a young age, we're told to play it safe. Avoid risk. Protect your money. Never lose what you have. While caution is important, this mindset often creates an unintended consequence. People become so focused on avoiding losses that they miss opportunities for growth. Think about it. People willingly spend thousands on cars that lose value, phones that become outdated, products that depreciate. Yet many of those same people hesitate to invest in productive assets that could appreciate over time. The issue isn't intelligence. It's conditioning. Most people have been trained to consume first and invest later. The wealthy often reverse that formula. They invest first. Then they spend what's left. That simple shift changes everything. Because your financial future is often determined by the habits you repeat, not the income you earn. By now, you might be wondering what actually works. The answer is surprisingly simple. Earn, save, invest, compound, repeat. Notice something important. Saving still matters. Saving is not the enemy. The problem is believing that saving alone creates wealth. Saving provides fuel. Investing provides growth. Compounding provides acceleration. Together, they form a wealth-building system. Every dollar you save becomes a potential worker. Every investment becomes a potential asset. Every year becomes an opportunity for compounding to multiply your progress. This isn't about getting rich overnight. It's about creating a system that works consistently over decades. Because real wealth is rarely built through dramatic actions. It's usually built through small, disciplined actions repeated over a very long period of time. That's the formula. Imagine your finances as a machine. Every month you earn income. Most people send that income directly toward consumption. But wealthy people often follow a different process. They take a portion of every paycheck and feed it into an asset machine. That machine might consist of stocks, ETFs, businesses, real estate, or a combination of all four. First, the machine is small. Its output is almost invisible. But month after month, year after year, the machine becomes larger. The assets begin generating returns. Those returns buy more assets. And eventually the machine starts producing meaningful wealth. This is when money begins working harder than the person who earned it. The goal isn't to work forever. The goal is to build an asset machine powerful enough to eventually work for you. That's how wealth becomes scalable. That's how financial freedom becomes possible. So let's return to the question we started with. Is saving money important? Absolutely. But saving money alone is not enough. The dangerous illusion is believing that wealth comes from saving. In reality, wealth comes from ownership. Ownership of productive assets. Ownership of investments. Ownership of systems that continue generating value over time. The people who build wealth understand a simple truth. Money sitting still stays limited. Money put to work has the potential to grow. That's why the goal isn't simply to save money. The goal is to build assets, to invest consistently, to harness the power of compounding, and to give your money a job. Because the sooner your money starts working for you, the sooner you're no longer forced to work for money. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more videos about investing, wealth building, and financial freedom, subscribe to Wealth with Mark and join us on the journey to smarter financial decisions.